Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Insufficient Friends. I'm Kevin. She's Nikki.
Hi.
And, Nick, how was your week? I know it's, for me, well, I'll just start, I guess, by saying how my week was, since I kind of already went into that. Anyway.
Kevin, how was your week?
My week was, a pain in the butt. It is, we've talked about it before, I don't know how much other people know that I work in television, news, which past week was an election week, which if you voted, great, don't, whatever, more power to you, great for whoever you decided to pick, whatever. But, just in television news in general, it is a busy flippin' week. Like, every 4 years, this is like the time. Any election is a pain. The big national ones are always the worst, and it's the only thing that you can schedule. Like, I know in 4 years another presidential election will be a big pain in the butt. You have other things that happen in between there that are also big things, and may even be bigger. But an election is always a massive undertaking, and it's a pain in the butt every single time.
Yeah,
but
I don't envy you, and I don't ever want to have to report on that.
It's been a tiring week, but we're through it, and I'm glad that it's done, and I can move on to the next normal week. But anyway, how was your week in general this week?
It was good. It was very rewarding. It was just so tiring. Like, I'm exhausted.
I get that.
But it's not like a bad exhausted. So I'm not like dying or anything. I'm just like, I'm so ready to go to bed. But it was rewarding.
That. Yeah.
So all good.
Yeah. So this week, no shout outs this week because you guys don't comment anymore. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We've done it before. It's fine. But Nick, before we get into our story this week, I do have a rant.
Yeah. A rant?
Okay, I do have a rant. It's not a big rant, it's a little rant. But I was thinking about this yesterday. So I got a just normal buying things. Bought a new package of toilet paper because, you need toilet paper. Nature comes a calling, you need toilet paper. It's fine. And I've decided I don't need new innovations in toilet paper. And
what are new innovations?
So the toilet paper that I just got has this new ripple thing that's supposed to make it easier to tear, and I don't see the point. Why do I need? The only thing that I need out of my toilet paper is two things. I need it to not feel like sandpaper when I'm using it, and I need it to hold its strength when it's being used.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't need new innovation. I don't need innovative toilet paper.
Kevin, would you like me to go on an even more in-depth rant on corporate greed and marketing?
Well, yes, I know what that is too. I'm very aware of this as well.
I think that's probably all it is.
I'm sure that's what it is. I want to know how much research and development these a toilet paper company pays to come up with. Hey, let's make it. Let's
it's not like it's the same R&D as like NVIDIA technology or some super indexed pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
So really, what is your R&D cost?
Yeah. It's versus straight line versus a squiggly line to apparently make it easier to tear. I don't know if I can tell.
$5 billion R&D.
$5 billion R&D. That's I don't. Yeah, that $5 billion is a lot of flipping money though. A year. That's a lot of money. I don't.
Yeah, that's an over exaggeration.
And I know a lot of companies spend that and more in research and development, which is just crazy. But
like I said before, if it's like technology or pharmaceuticals, I'm sure they do spend a massive amount. Yeah.
Yeah. I used to remember that. I remember hearing years ago how much Mercedes-Benz spent in R&D per day, and it was some astronomical flipping number that's just ridiculous. Which another thing, and I don't know. Do you know what an S class is? Have you ever heard of the S class? It's like
No.
Mercedes. It's like Mercedes top end
Oh, it's a car?
sedan. Yeah, it's a
Oh, I had
sedan.
no idea.
It's a car. But
They
one
should
of
put
the
more money less into R&D and more into marketing to people like me what
well,
S
it's
class.
a multiple hundred like it's a
Oh,
multiple $100,000 car. So it's a very like their top
okay.
end like car, and
So I'm not gonna be buying it
you're not going
anyway.
to be buying it anyway. But one of the comments that I've heard on it in the past is that if you want to know what your car's going to have in the next 20 years, look at what an S class has today. And
Oh, that's interesting.
that's
Mhm.
where you get like they were one of the first cars to have like some of the a bunch of different features, like some of the movable motion headlights and movable seats and stuff like that. They're like they've
Yeah.
come out with a lot of different innovations and have become
You
more
know,
of
I
a
feel like I don't
standard.
need much in a car. I want to be able to plug my phone and use maps and play my music.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be nice.
I
Oh, I can't do
like
that,
I
but that'd be
like
nice.
when seats have the fan air conditioning in the seats as well, but I
Ooh,
don't
that'd be
need
nice
it.
too.
It's just
Yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Um,
Which one's more?
Automatic headlights,
Which
but
one's more
that I mean
important
I don't
though?
need much.
Is the heating in the seat or the cooling in the seat more important?
No, I'm always hot. I don't want anything hot. In the winter, I have the AC on in the car. So, or not in the car, like on the seats.
Okay.
Like in the car, I'll have the heat on, just like
Yeah.
my hands and face don't get cold.
Uh huh.
But on the seats, I always have the AC on. It's
Hmm.
so nice.
Interesting, because I'm always hot. Usually, generally, always hot as well. But I will have
Yeah.
the seat warmers on a lot in the winter.
Oh God, no. Oh, it's like roasting yourself like a chicken. No, thank you. Yeah, I
Um.
really don't. I really just want to be able to plug my phone in and use maps because I am directionally illiterate. So,
Yeah.
as we well know on this podcast, when I describe directions by pointing
Hey,
as if that somehow
it works.
works.
The worst one that I always think is probably one of the worst ones that I always think is hilarious is people that use um not landmarks, but like things like a billboard, which can change very easily and very quickly. And they're like,
I
"Oh,
do that.
you turn at this billboard." Well, what happens when that billboard gets changed to something else? Well, I'm kind of screwed.
Yeah, I do that. Hmm.
Oh, anyway. But today, off of the rants and randomness of what our podcast can sometimes become, today we're going to talk about the disappearance of Malaysian flight MH370, which is also just as random as anything else we do on this podcast. So,
Yeah,
Nick,
yeah.
what you
And
kind of looked into
you
the?
brought this.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I looked into like the facts and I know you read about the theories, which I'm excited to hear about because I have not heard any and you said they're wild.
There's
But
some
how
wild
this
theories.
yeah, and how this kind of came about, you actually mentioned kind of in passing one of the theories and teleportation, and then you were like, "Oh, that's one of the theories of Malaysian Airlines." So that's the only thing I've heard about it. So that's why we decided to talk about it. But I I vaguely remember like seeing this in the news. I think I was in high school and in college, so I didn't really pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my favorite comedians, Kathleen Madigan, has a bit on in some of her shows on this and how obsessed she is. So I I think I read it about more about it after she did her little bit on it, but really not much. So it was fun to do a little bit of a read through on it. So
Okay.
yeah, Malaysian Airlines, so Flight 370. So it was a passenger flight,
Mm-hmm.
international passenger flight, obviously operated by Malaysia Airlines. It disappeared from radar on the 8th of March, 2014. So I was definitely oblivious to this in the news. Like I was in high school, not paying attention.
I was working
Um,
in the news, so I obviously knew that this was going on
yeah,
nonstop.
yeah. So it was flying from Kuala Lumpur International Airport in Malaysia to its destination, which was Beijing Capital International Airport in China, which that's a long name for an airport. I
Hmm.
guess maybe not really. It just seems long on here, but
I think it just seems long because there's a lot of long names when it comes to airports.
yeah, that's true. Anyways, I do have a little bit of brain rot today because I'm tired, so you might get some dumb comments like that, but that's okay. That's what we're here for. So the cause of the disappearance has not been, and as far as I know, everything I read, it's not been officially determined. I know we're going to go through a lot of theories, but is that right? Like they still have not officially
I don't
determined?
think they've ever given Noah a true
Okay.
official
That's what I
determination.
was thinking too. They've given a lot of theories. People have come up with a lot of theories, and then there's always some like we discovered this, scraps of this, and it's definitely from this flight, but they still have not said officially.
Hmm.
Um, so they last communicated with air traffic control 38 minutes after takeoff, and the flight was over the South China Sea. And then the aircraft was lost from the air traffic controls radar screens just a couple minutes later. But it was tracked for a while still by the Malaysian military's radar system for an hour after that.
Hmm.
So that didn't really make sense to me why it was lost on one but picked up on another. I'm not sure. Um, but it was deviating. I just pronounced that very oddly. Deviating westward um, from its original flight path. So it crossed the Malay Peninsula and Andaman Sea. And so it left the radar range 200 nautical miles above the island of the peninsula. So just the fact that it deviated paths, and I don't know, it's just odd to me that it disappears from radar and deviates, and I don't know. I guess we're gonna go into theories, but I'm already like thinking a bunch of things. Um, there were 227 passengers and 12 crew on board the plane. So this is, as far as my notes here, the deadliest incident involving a Boeing 777. Definitely the deadliest of 2014 and the deadliest in Malaysia Airlines history. This is all presuming they're all dead and not teleported to an alien planet,
Yeah.
as I'm sure one of the theories probably is. Um, so the only time that I think another flight has surpassed all three of those, records, there was a plane that was shot down by Russia, I
Hmm.
think, and that had more deaths than that. But at this time, this was the biggest, considered the most deadliest. So that's what it is, and what happened. But I don't have much as far as like timeline because everything kind of deviates. I could post a picture. I did find a really cool picture of the flight path and where they were supposed to go and where people say they deviated to, but everyone says something different.
Yeah.
And so that was getting really confusing in my
And
research.
if you look at the flight path too, like you see it flying in one direction, and then it just makes some
Hmm.
random turns to go back opposite directions, which is why
Yeah.
it's so.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the reason that it's interesting to people is because it just kind of randomly just moves around,
Hmm.
and it also, like you said, they found very few pieces of the plane, which you would think that.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand. Some people would think, and one of the arguments is that, well, you should find parts of the plane. Well, I mean, the ocean's really flipping big. Like there's
Yeah. Yeah.
a joke that I've seen on the internet before where it's, you pull up Google Earth and you put it just over the Pacific Ocean and ask somebody to tell you what planet
Hmm.
it is, and they can't tell you because the ocean's so flipping big that you can't see any land.
Yeah.
So, it's like
Hmm.
the ocean's really flipping. Now, I know it didn't. I know it didn't crash into the Pacific. I know it crashed, somewhere over the China Sea or the Indian Ocean or something like that. But it's
Yeah.
still just
Hmm.
it's still a big flipping place. Like,
Yeah. And this is a tangent, but did they ever find Amelia Earhart and her plane? I know
no.
there were a bunch of theories for that one too.
They
Okay, so
recently believe, actually, this has been within the last few
mhm.
months. There's a crew that believes they did find what could be her plane at the, I think it was at the bottom of the ocean. They were doing some scans.
Yeah.
They plan, I think, to go back within the next year or so to do more
Mm.
detailed more
Yeah.
detailed stuff on this. But that's also a much smaller plane. This is this is a
Yeah,
777.
a massive
Hers was a
plane.
little
But
smaller plane, but
it just lends to the fact that the ocean is so massive. It's
hmm
not like when, if someone goes missing on like a river cruise or from a boat and you can do a search and rescue, like you can reasonably do a search and rescue.
yeah.
Sometimes they still don't find them, but most of the time I feel like they do.
hmm
Um, but this is like there's just no, you can do search and rescue, but it's not going to come up with anything in a place that's that massive where
Well,
there's
yeah.
so many unknown factors.
You're searching such a large area, you don't know exactly where it went missing because,
Hmm.
you know, there are no survivors to, well, theoretically,
Corroborate
there are no
or
survivors to corroborate or tell you exactly what happened. It
hmm.
depends on who you ask. But when you have, there was 239 souls on board, and presumably
Yeah.
everybody is dead. So you don't
Hmm.
have any way of knowing where exactly it actually crashed or anything else. So
Yeah.
you're kind of just
And
like, here's a big square area, let's just start looking,
hmm.
So,
And Kathleen Madigan has some really funny like bits in her comedy sketches or shows. And she's like, it's just so funny how the prime minister will come out and say something, and then the next day he'll say something different. And it's like, how do you, she was like, get your theory straight. I don't even care what you say. I just want you to say something consistent. I'm obviously not a comedian and not giving her any of like the praise she deserves there. But it was really funny because in these notes it does say like they gave several different statements and then it changed, as they learned new things or learned about possible new theories, and just it's wild. We truly don't know
no, we don't.
what happened.
So
Yeah.
there has been um, there's several different theories on what happened. Um, uh, the the probably most common ones are the most, I guess, plausible ones, because you mentioned teleportation. That's pretty far out there. Like, it's one of
I
them,
know.
but it's pretty far out there when you really think about it.
Hmm.
One of them is pilot suicide or mass murder. I mean, that
Hmm.
happened. They confirmed that was the cause of a Germanwings plane crash a year later, that killed
Mm.
150 people when the I think it was the pilot or the co-pilot locked out the other one and then crashed the plane into a mountain. So you
Mm.
have incidents like that. Um, you have a
Yeah,
theory
just so sad.
of a hijacking, which could be a
Hmm.
terrorist attack or something like that. That's happened before. Um,
Hmm.
you have a theory of a fire, um, a fire on board that could have caused the plane to have issues. Either something it was carrying caught fire, or there was a fire somewhere on the plane.
Yeah.
Because if you have a
But
fire in a plane, you're in trouble. Like, that's a terrible
oh,
thing. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I just don't know how that would have caused like why did they go so far off course and not just emergency land somewhere?
I
I
don't
don't
really
know.
understand it either.
I mean, it's
Um,
like with anything. There's always going to be loopholes in these different
yeah.
theories too.
Um, theory that it was shot down, um,
Hmm.
which you kind of mentioned. There was a plane. It was actually another Malaysian Airlines flight that was shot down over Ukraine, Flight
Yeah.
17.
Hmm.
That was shot down. I think it was this same year. Yeah, it was. That was March 8th. That was in July. So it
Hmm.
was just a few months later,
Yeah.
that same year, that it
Hmm.
was shot down over Ukraine. And there's some people that believe that those were the same plane. I mean, I don't really know how you come up with that theory, but it is what it is.
Hmm.
There's some people that believe it was a cyber attack, um,
Hmm.
which is, I mean, Boeing says that
Can you
that's not
cyber attack
possible.
a plane and would that explain the well, I guess you just said Boeing said that's not possible. Oh, I don't know
I mean,
the
Boeing
exact
says
word,
it's
but
not possible. I mean,
hmm.
this is 10 years ago at this point. I don't know. Boeing said at the time that it wasn't possible. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know the inner workings of planes enough to tell you whether or not it's
Mm-hmm.
It's
Possible, yeah.
possible. I mean, you know, the whole theoretically, I would think no, because I mean, you have an autopilot on a plane, but you can override that and
Mm-hmm.
actually fly the plane. So I would think that
Yeah.
that
So
would be
unless you
how
had
you would
some
hack
type
it.
of
Yeah.
yeah, unless you had, and I know nothing about hacking or technology at all. I know how to play games on my computer and that's it. So, but I'm like, well, is there a way people could like lock the pilot out of the manual override? I don't know. I don't know how that
I
works.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's all yeah, I'm not really sure. I don't know. That's a
But then
toggle
I'm like,
question.
why? Why this specific plane? And if you have that ability to hack a plane, like was there someone important on board? Like how they have those theories of there's some planes that have went down that had like cancer doctors on there that found new cancer cures and things.
Mhm.
So like, was there someone important on the plane? Why would you not, hack like a more important, private jet or something if you have that capability to begin with? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something I don't know about the people that were actually on the plane.
Um there's also a university. Excuse me. Oh, sorry. There was a mathematics professor at Texas A&M, and this is more of why this is more of a theory of why we've never found the plane or the wreckage of the plane.
Mm,
Is he argues that the plane may have entered the sea in such a like vertical fashion that it didn't
hmm.
really break apart. It just kind of went in and down, and that was it. Which would keep it
Oh,
from, I guess, keep it from splintering into like a bunch of pieces and spreading as much. Um,
yeah.
which is why it may not be found. Um, that's more random theories. Is it was consumed by a black hole? Uh,
hmm.
it was hit by a meteor, or it was abducted by aliens. And there's
Yeah.
actually they in 2018, um, so about 4 years after it disappeared, I guess someone said they got strange voicemails and text messages from that coordinated to Indonesia, and
Mm.
uh, and they were coded with a NATO alphabet, which they said alluded to alien abduction. I don't really know. That seems a little far fetched to me.
Mm.
The one
I don't
that
know. I think it makes perfect sense.
yeah,
Uh, because how else would you explain the random twists and turns if not they're running away from an alien spaceship?
I mean that's a possibility. That's a possibility. There you
Yeah.
go. They're running away from an alien spaceship. I
I mean,
don't.
I think that's way more plausible than they just went straight into the ocean and the plane didn't wreck.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's not that it didn't wreck. It's that that's why we didn't find the wreckage, is because it didn't split apart like you
Yeah.
would think it would. One of the hijacking theories is that it was captured by the Navy SEALs, and flown to a Navy compound, a naval base on Diego Garcia or near Diego Garcia, which is kind of in that area.
Hmm.
And that one of the reasons that those theories is from where some of the wreckage has washed up to. They think that it's possible that there's no way that it couldn't have been that close. It was all planted, and it was planted to make
Mm.
it look like it, and that passengers could still be alive and just not told not to basically show that they survived this ordeal.
Yeah.
Now,
And they think the Navy did that?
yeah, so
To
one of the
me, to me, the Navy is like, I'm not trying to trash our military by any. It's just that the only experience I've never met anyone that's been in the Navy except for my grandpa. I've met plenty of people in the Army and Marines and
mhm,
the other branches, but the only person I've met that's been in the Navy is my grandpa.
yeah.
And he never, left the United States, never was deployed or anything. All he talks about is the food and how good the food was and how fun it was, and then he went home.
Okay. Um,
So to me, I'm like, how does, someone like my grandpa abduct a plane? But
well, Navy
He was
SEALs.
not.
Yeah, I was gonna say Navy SEAls are some of the most highly trained military
Yeah.
people there are. They're the ones who
Hmm.
killed Osama bin Laden. You know, that's a
Yes.
pretty
Yeah.
famous thing. And my grandpa was in the Navy. He did leave the United States. He went
Did
out on
he?
he was out on a ship out
Hmm.
a bunch of different all over the world. So you know they
Yeah.
do.
Oh, believe me, I know that they do
Yeah.
things. It's just like that's the first thought in my head.
We're gonna have all the Navy people hating us now from now on.
I
It's
know
gonna
they're
be
gonna be
fun.
so mad at me. Don't make a short of that moment. It's gonna go viral for the wrong
Uh,
reasons. I promise I
anyway,
like the Navy.
the U.S. hijacking the plane kind of goes along with part of the teleportation theory. So
Okay.
there's videos that have come out. They didn't really come up. According to what I could find, they didn't actually start getting posted until just like a couple years ago.
Hmm.
And it appears to show three unknown objects circling the plane, which they claim is MH370, circling the plane, and then all of a sudden, all the three objects and the plane disappear, just all of a sudden.
Oh,
Like you
okay.
watch it go, and then all of a sudden, it's just gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there's like a lot of there's also some satellite footage that people claim to go along with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
That's
they
interesting. So they said that the three ships circling were aliens or the US?
that it was a U.S. military project
Okay, so
is
the
one of
US
the
military was the
arguments.
three
Yeah,
planes circling it and teleported it. So
yeah.
they think the US has the technology to
That's
teleport.
that's one of the theories that I've heard
Okay.
is that the U.S. military has this technology and is basically and there's supposedly been reports that people have seen these objects.
Mm-hmm.
They all it's always three things that kind of fly together, and when you watch the video, and I don't think I'm going to be able to put it up. You can probably find it on YouTube, but I'm not going to try to put it on here because I don't know what it is or if it's copyrighted or anything else. So
Yeah,
I'll
I
just
can probably post it to our Instagram story
yeah.
because I'm gonna look it up because I haven't seen it. That's
I'll try to
interesting.
find something so you and post a link to it in the description. But you kind
Okay.
of see the things they all of a sudden come out of nowhere. It's a very short
Mm-hmm.
video clip. They come out of nowhere. They start circling the plane, and then they start circling the plane in a very symmetrical fashion, is what it looks like. And then all of a sudden,
Mm.
there's like a little flash, and all four of them disappear. The plane and the three objects. And that's why
Interesting.
they believe some people believe that it was maybe there was an emergency on the plane and somebody was called to test
Mm-hmm.
this to try to save it, and this was also while it was a while it did save the plane or was trying to save the plane, it was a test of this technology as well, like a practical test of it.
Mm.
um
Interesting. It just
Now,
makes me think like, how do we have the government, the US government or military or whoever would have to be hiding so much technology from us
yeah.
that is way beyond advanced what they allow into like our modern day society? Because I'm thinking, first of all, my Microsoft Teams meetings for work don't even work. So how the heck are we doing teleportation? Or like the US government and its agencies can't even figure out what food should actually go in the food pyramid. So how are we teleporting things? Like there are just so many things that they have to be hiding a
Well,
massive amount for that theory to be even true at all.
this is, I mean, yes, I understand that, but that also goes back to there's some amount of truth to that. You know, if you watch the movie, um, was it The Imitation Game that was taught that went over the uh, breaking of the Enigma machine from the Germans, the Nazis.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
I've seen that.
at the when they first figure out the code, they learn
Uh-huh.
in the movie, and I don't know how accurate this is, but this is very theoretical idea that makes sense to me, and it may be accurate. I don't know.
Hmm.
They learn about an attack that the Germans are going to carry out, but they decide not to act on it because they know if we do act on everything, they're gonna know we know this, and they're gonna change it.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, there is that, you know, I guess idea a little bit
Hmm.
that you don't want to let everything out. And also,
Hmm.
have you ever seen Independence Day? Will Smith movie?
Mm-mm.
Okay. There's a there's a scene in it where they go to Area 50. It's about aliens attacking the world. And
Okay.
it's got Will Smith and uh oh, why can't I think of his name right now? That's gonna drive me crazy. I'll think of it here in a few minutes. But um, Jeff Goldblum, holy cow, Jeff Goldblum and Will
Oh, I
Smith.
love Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's about aliens attacking the world, or aliens coming to Earth to take over the Earth, and
Hmm.
the guy who plays Jeff Goldblum's dad, they end up going to Area 51 because Area 51 is actually housing aliens, and they have the technology. They've known that aliens
Interesting.
exist. They have a spaceship that they've been trying to get flying, all that kind of stuff in it. And
Hmm.
one of the things the dad says when they get there, he's like, "You didn't think that?" Like, he's like, "Well, how did you guys have all this?" He's like, "You didn't think they actually spent $100 on a hammer, did you? Like, or $1,000 on a hammer, did you? Like, so like." The military spends a lot of money on a lot of things, like, so,
Hmm.
you don't really know where all of it goes. The idea that
No,
it goes towards
definitely.
teleportation is a little out there, but
Yeah.
you don't really know.
Oh, I'm 100% sure there's technology that, they're working on with other companies that we don't know about for sure. It's just like that just seems so far out there. Because I did a little reading on teleportation too, just because I was curious. Because you had originally talked about that. That was the only like theory that I really knew about. And um, so teleportation was first, the word is actually credited to American writer Charles Fort. And he was trying to, come up with a description for strange disappearances and different anomalies that happen, all over the world. Um, and so he wrote about it. The Chinese have come up with technology to teleport like atoms, but then there's issues with that. And so like unless that's like the public view of the science that we know of, and
Hmm.
then there's another view where they have figured out the science of how to transport atoms,
Yeah,
who knows?
and the other, one of the theories that could go along with this, because obviously we don't know what happened for sure. This is a theory.
Yeah.
This is a theory that I've heard that doesn't, it was kind of started. It seems like on Reddit, but which we
Mm,
know Reddit is fun, but it's probably not the most accurate place to find things.
yeah.
And you know, one of the guys that's kind of looked into this a lot, that I watched in a podcast a while back, um, is that we don't necessarily know that it worked properly. We don't necessarily know that
Yeah.
everybody lived through the teleportation, just that it might have actually
Hmm.
happened, or it might have started. Um,
Yeah.
Now, Newsweek did looked into the video that was posted to Reddit, the original video, and
Mhm.
they said they concluded that the video was not actually of that plane.
Oh.
It was posted with no reference to that plane. It was only later that people started referencing the plane, and
Hmm.
they also determined that there's, I guess, a clip of a satellite that people use, and they said that satellite
Hmm.
wasn't launched until after the plane disappeared. So there's no way that satellite could have been used.
Interesting.
So yeah,
Hmm.
that's the theories. Again,
Yeah.
there's some normal ones like a fire, or a
Yeah.
suicide attempt or something like that, and then there's some out there ones. Just
Yeah.
just
And
saying.
I was thinking about like flight crashes in general, and I have a fun fact later about like how many are actually like unexplained versus explained. But like so this is a hot topic I feel like for some people, or not a hot topic. Like a lot of people are afraid to get on a plane. But we know from statistics, I know you and I have talked about this before, that driving is more dangerous than getting on a plane. There's so
Hmm.
many other things that are more dangerous than getting on a plane.
Yeah.
But when you like when we're doing this topic on the podcast and things, does this ever make you think twice about like the next time you get on a plane?
No,
I don't think so either.
no.
I was thinking about it. I was like, those phobias, I guess, of people not wanting to fly, they must come from somewhere else, unless they truly, read things like this and then get truly terrified.
Yeah,
I
and
don't know, but I was like, I guess I don't think that way, or I don't have any trauma associated with the plane.
yeah,
That could also be a thing.
and everybody has their own fears. I get it. Soaring through the air at 500 miles an hour in a tiny little metal tube doesn't seem like the safest way to go.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. Um,
Hmm.
I'm more afraid of other things. I try, of course, not to live in fear, because if you do, you won't
Yes.
do anything because you'll be too afraid.
Yeah.
But um,
Hmm.
I don't think I could go up in a hot air balloon. Um, something about something about a wooden basket being propelled by fire doesn't seem like a good idea. But that's that's just me. Um,
Yeah.
and
I don't really avoid, situations like that either. I do have little things here and there that I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like,
yeah,
I
it's
don't think I'd ever really want to skydive, but I'm also like, I'm going to live my life, and I
yeah.
always, I've always had this thing of I do have trauma with people passing away, and my family and I wasn't able to say bye
Hmm.
or goodbye, and so I always say I love you to like everyone. I could be like, whether it's I'm going on a road trip or flying on a plane or just going to take out the trash. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, love you, bye. Because you could get like
you don't
hit by
know.
a car
Yeah,
when you're taking out the trash can.
you
You never
never
know. So
know.
I always like live in the moment, but I also don't live in fear.
Yeah,
It's like a healthy balance.
I
A
get
healthy
that.
balance of trauma.
Yeah. Yeah, living, I mean, obviously you don't want to live in fear, but I do, I think just like anybody, there's certain things that I'm like, yeah, that just seems too dangerous. Like, it's risk
Hmm.
mitigation. Like, you know, I'm probably not going to go skydiving either, because it just, one, I'm too
Hmm.
large to really go skydiving. But two, it just doesn't, like, I don't need the adrenaline rush of free falling. I,
Hmm.
to me, can get the same feeling by riding a roller coaster, and I'm
Yes,
strapped into
exactly.
something and not just free falling through the air. I know it's not the same thing. I know
Yeah.
it's not the same thing, but
Hmm.
it gives me enough of the thrill to do something like that.
Yeah. I also have anxiety, so I don't really need that much more thrill in my life because I get a thrill just like doing my day-to-day things. Um, so like I could play a game. Like next episode, shout out to next week episode. We're gonna talk about like apocalypses and Fallout and things. But when I play Fallout, I get like really anxious and it's so fun, but it's like that thrill. I'm like
Yeah,
shaking when I play it. And so I'm like, I don't need an actual like thrill-seeking life. I get enough.
yeah. Um, I'll have a story for that, but I'll save that for next week because I think it'll go along
Okay.
with the games a little bit better. Um,
I have one more pressing question
okay.
before we do
Pressing
fun
question.
facts.
Pressing question. Okay.
Yes. So I love the idea of teleportation. I wish this was real because I was like, that'd be so handy because I would love to just like Irish goodbye out of awkward situations or like, when you're in public and don't want to be there or something.
Yeah.
And then I was like, but where would I have my destination sent to? Like, I don't just want to go home. I guess a lot of the times I do just want to go home.
Yeah.
But do you have a place like, would you teleport home or like, do you
Disney
have a
World.
happy place
Disney World.
to like escape? Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good
I'd
one for
probably
you.
I if I had to set one location, like a location, and
Yeah.
you're basically saying I set a location and that's where I always teleport to that spot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it would probably be like Main Street, USA, in Disney World.
Yeah.
That's probably what it would be.
That's like your happy
Yeah,
escape place.
that's probably
I like that.
and that's because I'm a
Yeah.
Disney adult and I'm a weird person, but that makes me happy. So that's probably where I would teleport
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. I think if I wasn't just teleporting to my bed, which is most of the time what I'm
That's
feeling like doing,
that's a good place to teleport to.
um, it'd probably be something like where I feel very at peace. Like the fairy pools on the Isle of Skye. I think that
Yeah,
would be my, like the water is relaxing and you've got the beautiful scenery. That would probably be my escape.
that makes
But
sense.
then
That's
I
nice.
still have to teleport home to my
Yeah,
bed.
you still have to
But
get back, which is
yeah,
why teleportation is. I mean, really, you need a two-way system of some sort.
I
Um,
know. But I
and
would love to just be able to like piece out of some of these conversations that I have with people sometimes.
yeah, the other
That'd be
question
nice.
is it when you teleport? Okay, this
Mm-hmm.
is like a theoretical question with teleportation. If you
Okay.
teleport, is it still you when you get there, or
That's part of
or is it a
the research
different?
that the Chinese were having issues with because they were trying to teleport these atoms, but then they figured out that they weren't the same. And so, yeah, the technology's not there yet. You would
Yeah.
definitely be all kinds of messed up,
Well,
probably.
and also not even that. It's like the idea of, if you clone people clone animals now. Like you clone an animal so that you
Mm-hmm.
have, but it's not the same animal. It's a different animal. Like, and it's all about the
Mm-hmm.
experience that it has. So would would teleportation be able to? Would it still be you? Would you still have the experiences? Would you lose that with the process of being basically broken down into just energy and then rebuilt back up
Mm-hmm.
as something else? Because you're,
Yeah.
you know, it's just an interesting thought project, thought
I
experiment.
would assume that it would you would technically be different because if you're breaking yourself all the way down there and rebuilding it from energy, I don't know how you could be the
Yeah,
same.
exactly. That's kind of what I think, but you know,
Yeah.
it's
Very theoretical. My
yeah,
brain isn't
very
strong enough for
very.
that tonight.
I think that means it's time for facts. Okay, Nick. Fact. What's your fact?
Okay. Since 1948, at least 88 planes have disappeared.
Okay.
And this is a count from the Aviation Safety Network, which is an independent initiative that I guess keeps a database of all these.
Okay.
Now that's airliner, military, corporate, like all the different types.
Okay.
But all 88 flights went completely missing without a single trace.
Hmm. Now
That's, I mean, to me, that's wild. That's a lot.
does that include the ones that have like been found? Because there was, I think, an Air France
No,
flight that
so it
went missing
says,
and then was
this
found later,
says,
like
and
decades
I don't
later.
know, when this fact was created and they stopped the data at that point, but this says, in all of these cases, not a single piece of wreckage, oil slick, or bodies have been found.
Hmm.
So now I don't know what year this fact is from. It just says since 1948, but I don't know when they actually published this. But
Okay.
I thought that was interesting because that's still, even if you add or take away a couple depending on the year, that's still a lot.
Interesting. Hmm. Okay. That is interesting. That's
Hmm.
88 planes and since the 40s. So
Hmm. It's a lot.
not 80
Like
years,
if you
80
think
planes.
about how much press coverage this one flight got,
That's almost a plane a year. That's an average of almost a plane a year. Now, I'm sure
yeah.
that a lot of those, if you were to say that, I'm sure a lot of them are small planes.
Oh yeah,
Um,
small aircraft, military. Like it's
yeah.
not just like the Boeing
Yeah,
787s, but
it's
yeah.
not big commercial airliners that are obviously going missing that often. So I'm sure it's
Yeah.
yeah, that makes a little more sense, but still it's an average of a plane a year,
Still a lot.
which is kind of a lot. That seems like a lot.
Hmm.
Um, so mine goes back to what we talked about a little bit earlier about flying being safer than driving. Okay,
Hmm.
so this was posted in 2014. So this was posted
Okay.
after, I believe, probably in um, response to, yeah, this was posted after the MH370 and the MH17 um, flight crashes. So this was response to that.
Okay.
Um, and at that time, the most recent data they had, a full year of data, was 2012. So all these numbers are from 2012. Um, so in 2012, 0 people died on commercial airline flights.
Okay.
Okay, 0 people died on commercial U.S. flights. including international flights by U.S. Airlines. Now, there were, so I guess there were smaller plane crashes, privately flown planes, air ambulances, and cargo planes. Those resulted in 449 deaths. Okay, 449 deaths.
Mm-hmm.
That is lower than marine, so boats. That is lower than it's half, little over half of what train crashes, rail crashes killed, and 449 deaths. Do you want to take a stab at how many road deaths there were that year in the U.S.?
Oh, millions?
Well, not quite that many.
Hundreds of thousands?
No, not quite. Still not quite that many. It was 33,000 deaths on the roads, which is a lot. I mean, it's not as much as what you're guessing, which kind of foils my little numbers thing here, but it's fine.
Sorry. I was trying to think of, I don't even know how many people there are in the United States, so that doesn't help.
And that also means that statistics after 9/11, people started driving more, which also led to an increase in road deaths.
Yes, I saw that too.
Because more people were driving, and it's obviously less like it's less likely. You're less likely to die in a plane crash because you're less likely to be involved in a plane crash. But if the plane crashes, you're pretty much almost guaranteed to die. Like the chance of you surviving it is pretty slim. But
and I think there was some of the things I was reading as I was trying to find facts. It was like there's hardly ever like just a few survivors. It's either like everyone dies or everyone lives, and there's very little in between.
Yeah. It's very, very, exactly, very small, just like half and half or something. Yeah, it's mostly everybody dies or everybody lives. But anyway, I think
on that note,
that is about it for this week, folks. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, let us know what you want us to talk about. If you enjoy this episode, give us a thumbs up. If you didn't, just leave it alone. Don't give us a thumbs down. Just leave it alone.
Just don't listen.
Yeah, just leave it alone. That's fine. But always subscribe anyway. Still subscribe. Anyways, we'll talk to you guys. I think that's it, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Bye.